It seems like all of these immigrant groups have a song about Trump.
He's back.
Some better than others. Let's check it out.
USA, USA, make America great, great again.
I really don't have any idea why our Vietnamese community is overwhelmingly conservative.
Năm 2020, ngày 3 tháng 11, ngày 3 tháng 11, ta bầu cho Tổng thống Trump. Donald Trump.
America's going to be great again.
Yeah. So remember when the cameras couldn't stop showing Vietnamese for Trump, the flags, the anti-communist protests, the red caps mixed with yellow star banners, the chants that sounded more like a trauma response than a political position? Remember the elders in Little Saigon crying at Trump rallies, not because they loved him, but because he reminded them of a strong man who promised safety in a world that once collapsed under their feet. Remember the younger ones born in America, but shaped by the battlefield stories their parents whispered into their cribs? Yeah.
Here we go again.
So what happened? Because now the same movement they embraced, the same party they trusted, is pushing policies that threaten their visas, their families, their resettled communities. And the same Southeast Asian refugees America once claimed to save. And we need to really dive in this a little bit more to really understand Vietnamese for Trump. You need to understand the story America never tells. Vietnamese political identity in the U.S. was born in war, loss, and betrayal, and a very desperate hunt for a protector. This is not about economics. This is not about conservative values. This is about trauma as a political compass. Some people vote from ideology. Vietnamese America has often voted from survival instinct. So in 1975, when Saigon fell, the U.S. framed Vietnamese refugees as the people we rescued from communism. But here are the receipts. The U.S.-backed brutal South Vietnamese regime promised protection they never delivered, secretly discussed abandoning refugee allies, bombed Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos into generational trauma, then recycled refugees as Cold War propaganda props. The deal was simple.
What?
We destroyed your home. But if you praise us, if you vote how we tell you, if you stand against the people we fear, we will let you stay.
What the hell was that all about?
Vietnamese American didn't assimilate into democracy. They assimilated into a Cold War myth. For Vietnamese elders, Trump wasn't a politician. He was a symbol, a strong man, a protector archetype, a father figure fantasy for people who survived the collapse of everything they're familiar with. Stanford research described this as authoritarian nostalgia. While Trump appealed to Vietnamese people, let me take a stab at this because this is some of the reasons why I believe why he appealed to them. Anti-communistic rhetoric, sure. Anti-China positioning, strongman persona, anti-liberal immigrant narrative, evangelical influence in Vietnamese churches, conservative Vietnamese media in California and Texas mostly. Now here's some things that could probably back what I'm stating up. Pew Research reported in 2020 that Vietnamese Americans were the most Republican Asian group. Asian American voters surveyed stated that 48% approved of Trump in 2020, highest among Asian communities. Trump didn't recruit Vietnamese America. Their trauma was already waiting for someone like him. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Immigrants don't enter America as equals. They enter as potential foot soldiers in a racial hierarchy designed long before they arrive. And America whispers, you don't have to be white. Just prove you're not black. Just prove that you're one of the good ones, and we'll let you climb the social economic ladder.
I will make that hypocrisy hurt.
The Journal of Global Migration Studies reported that anti-blackness is preloaded in Asian communities due to colonial encounters. And here's the punchline. Whiteness recruits through reward, not ideology. Vietnamese America isn't just California. It's New Orleans East as well, a community built from nothing after the Vietnam War. Refugees rebuilt the marshlands, created thriving businesses, formed tight churches, survived Katrina when the government abandoned them again. But here's the twist. The same community America rescued is now being targeted by the same immigration crackdowns they applauded under Trump. And here's some of the receipts for you guys who like to look the things up I'm stating. ICE arrested surge in Vietnamese neighborhoods. New Orleans immigration court data posted that Vietnamese immigrants saw increased deportation reviews, including legal residents with decades in the U.S. Let's go a little bit further here because I think Instead of just having me talk to you, let's hear from another source.
We are learning more about who those agents are focusing on in the New Orleans area, and they're focusing on the Vietnamese community. Scripps News national correspondent Katie Tubman joining us live from New York, and she has been following the story for us. So, Katie, what more can you tell us about this immigration effort in New Orleans?
Well, Stephanie, that effort has been dubbed by DHS Operation Catahoula Crunch, and it's where a 2-month operation has commenced as of this week with hundreds of agents on the ground and with a goal of 5,000 arrests across Southeast Louisiana. Now, Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, who has led these operations in other cities, touched down in New Orleans earlier this week, and numerous videos of have been posted on X of arrests that have been happening across the area, and agents have been seen at construction sites, home improvement stores, and in one instance, stopping workers in the middle of a roofing job in Kenner, Louisiana, just west of New Orleans. Now, this operation comes after similar sweeps in North Carolina, Chicago, Los Angeles, and it comes as a part of the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. And largely, these cities have been Democratic-led cities that have been identified as by the federal government as sanctuary jurisdictions or sanctuary cities that have certain policies that restrict how much local law enforcement can cooperate with federal immigration authorities. And they have been targeted. But New Orleans is a little bit different in that it's the first of these high profile operations to happen in a Republican-led state. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is from Louisiana, voiced his support of this operation, saying on X on Thursday, Democrats' sanctuary city policies have failed, making our American communities dangerous. The people of our great city deserve better, and help is now on the ground. Now, boots are definitely on the ground right now, and there's a lot of fear in the air. Local residents we spoke to told us that the communities there are on edge, particularly communities that have high populations of Latino residents as well as Vietnamese residents. Specifically speaking to the Vietnamese population, many of the locals there say there's a significant amount of immigrants who are there, many of whom endured waves of displacement after the fall of Saigon in 1975 at the end of the Vietnam War, and they made homes for themselves over the past half century in New Orleans, and that is being disrupted. We spoke with one local resident who's part of that community, T. Bui, who was born in the final days of the war and came to the U.S. as a refugee at the age of 3, and she lives in New Orleans, and she said that this feels like this operation a betrayal for a community that has been offered refuge for many years, for decades, and has had deep roots in this community. Here's what Boye had to tell us.
We have a problem. So America loves Vietnamese refugees until it remembers they're still immigrants. The political war inside Vietnam America isn't left versus right. It's refugee memory versus American reality. Elders vote trauma. Youth vote lived experience. Elders fear communism. The youth fear the police. Elders idolize America. Youth critique America. Elders want strong men and the youth wants justice. The generation that survived the war raised a generation that refused to fear the wrong enemy. Every political illusion has an expiration date. Here's why the Vietnamese MAGA coalition is cracking. Trump's immigration policies threaten Southeast Asians. ICE targets old refugee criminal cases. Deportation flights to Vietnam resume. Anti-Asian hate rose under Trump. Younger Vietnamese reject conservative assimilation. Community leaders losing credibility with Gen Z. U.S.-Vietnam diplomacy reduces fear-based voting. Plus, the U.S. Supreme Court eliminated affirmative action, but Vietnamese Americans weren't the target. Black Americans were, and many younger Vietnamese could finally see the pattern. The illusion collapsed when the consequences arrived at their own doorstep. Vietnamese America didn't fail. They were failed. Failed by the empire, failed by propaganda, failed by trauma, failed by a system that recruits immigrants into whiteness by teaching them who to distance themselves from. But here's the truth. No immigrant group in America has fought white supremacy longer, harder, and more successful than foundational Black Americans. We are not your enemy. We are your blueprint. You don't need a strong man. You need it past tense solidarity. You need historical clarity. You need to understand the system you fear is the same one we've dismantled piece by piece for 400 to 500 years. When I look at the tail of the tape, when I see people from other countries that are being deported back to their homeland, the only thing that I can do is sit here and just watch as a foundational Black American. Because you know why? This platform is Blacklogic, where we confront myth, memory, and manipulation with receipts and invoices, as well as historical references and the truth that America tries to bury. And by the way, if you was ever wondering if I've been to Vietnam, of course I have. Just check out my video right here. My wild 1 a.m. adventure through Asia gone wrong. Half of this was in Vietnam, the other half was in Thailand.